Hello, hello. I'm Juliana Hever, the plant-based dietitian, and this is the What Would Juliana Do Q&A. Thank you so much for your continued outpouring of wonderful questions and comments. I'm really excited because there's so much to talk about. I thought, well, I'm probably gonna run out of things to talk about, but I can't even keep up. So keep them coming. I'm trying to address them all into big groups now. Like when I see multiple questions repeated, that's why I'm doing kind of one subject per video now, just to keep it, I want to answer as much as I can and be as efficient as possible. So today I thought I would address emotional eating. And a lot of people reached out and said, how do you deal with emotional eating? Some people said, how do you decouple food from emotion? And this is a huge question. And it's a multivariable question too, because there's a lot of psychological things about food that are very deep-seated. I talked about in my TEDx talk how food is love and culture and habit, and it's family and religion, and it's everything. And we do not socialize without food. Every event, every holiday, every celebration, there's so many things interconnected. We usually do it surrounding food. And so it's deeply embedded in every part of our life. So how do we decouple that from nourishment? And, I'm not a counselor, and obviously this is not advice. Again, I cannot provide advice here. I'm just talking about my perspective and how I handle it for myself. I do work with clients one-on-one, and that's you could find my services on plantbaseddietitian.com. But generally speaking, I'm just saying what I would talk about generally about the subject is food is, it's fundamental and it's primal and it's nourishment first, okay? So what is really important is to really learn, first of all, how to recognize hunger. What is true hunger? And start to recognize, oh wait, maybe I'm just stressed or bored or sad or anything, like all the other emotions that could be tied and interrelated to food. So you can rule that out I like to use this test. I like to use a celery stick test. Sometimes I'll use an apple test. If a stick of celery or a piece of apple sounds delicious, you're probably physically hungry. Dr. Joel Fuhrman talks about toxic hunger, and it's really interesting. I highly recommend you look that up. He guest blogged about that many, many years ago on my website, so it's even in there. And he talks about like all of these symptoms that we have, the stomach growling and the lethargy and all of that. Those are not symptoms of hunger, because if you think about it from an adaptation perspective or an anthropology perspective, if you became tired and weak and lethargic when you needed food because you were out of food, you wouldn't survive. We need to run and catch and pick and gather and all of that stuff, and that requires energy. So he relates it to a feeling in your throat, but I have not necessarily felt that. Maybe a little bit, but I haven't mastered that. So for me, I know that the more hungry I am biologically or physically, the better everything sounds. So when you're full, nothing sounds good, but when you're hungry, everything sounds good. So that's kind of the meter I use. So pick your celery or apple, because for everyone, it's something a little bit different. And that's one thing. So figure out what is true hunger. The second thing I do, and I recommend to my clients, and generally speaking, and I've written about this in my books. I wrote a lot about this in Vegetarian Diet. I don't have that here with me, but it's over there in the bookshelf. But what I talk about is writing a list. So you could write a list, and I have separate lists actually. One list for when you're doing, when you're bored. What are some things you could do that would be fun that are not food related? Stuff that you wouldn't normally indulge in, like, I don't know, reading a juicy novel or binging on a Netflix show or whatever it is, write it out for you, something that you enjoy doing that is not food related for entertainment. I also do a list for soothing things for when you're stressed. So for me, taking a long hot bath or a long walk, or petting an animal. Animals always make everything better, always. Almost always. And whatever it is for you. This is why I have sunflowers everywhere in my home now, because literally everywhere. My mom is painting me a sunflower picture. Sunflowers make me happy. So for me, they are here to make me happy. So that would be on my list. So think of other activities, other ways to quell those emotions, and try to just go to that list when you're having that feeling and and you're discerning that it is not hunger. that is just a general guideline. I know it's way deeper than this, and there are so many great books on this and so many great counselors and therapists that work with people about specifically dealing with that, decoupling of the emotions. But for me as a dietitian, I want you to choose nourishment for food. Like, I want food to be assigned as nourishment. Of course, it can be delicious, and whole plant foods are absolutely delicious, can be absolutely delicious in so many different ways. So you should love your food, but it should be thought of as nourishment and medicine, because it quite literally is. And those other things won't get better or solved by eating them. And sometimes and often it actually makes things worse. And I know it's way easier to say than it is to do, especially in the moment. But those are just some thoughts to share with you, and I hope that helps. Please continue with your wonderful questions and comments below in the comments section, or via direct message, or on my website, plantbaseddietitian.com. You can contact me there. Thank you so much for joining me, and I will see you next time.